Oh, it had been so long since I did one of these that I really wasn't sure I was going to be able to get through everything. I had been sick, like really sick for a while. Then before that, my family was visiting for Christmas. And then before that, I was just like prepping for their arrival, trying to get all my work done, etc. So it had been a few weeks, if not months. But with the start of the new year, I really wanted to get things in order, wipe the slate clean, and feel like I was on top of things. So even though I wasn't sure I was going to get it all done, I was definitely going to give it my best shot and just to see how far I could get. Let's go. Hi guys, it's Laura and I help you live a simpler, happier, more spacious life. And after the holidays, after being sick, I was really ready to wipe the slate clean. Now, weekly resets or just reset days in general, because I also do monthly and quarterly ones, they are honestly some of the best things that I have ever done. Like, it is one of the best habits that I have ever implemented because it helps me to keep on top of things. I mean, previously there were so many things that were just falling through the cracks because I wasn't doing them on a regular schedule. I was just kind of doing them when I remembered or when they got out of hand. Or I don't know if you can hear Jovi in the background. She's got an ear infection, poor thing, so she keeps like scratching at her ears and stuff. She's feeling very sorry for herself. But anyway, yeah, that's all of that like scratching and sighing and stuff you can hear in the background. But yeah, apart from just things constantly feeling like they were out of hand, me constantly feeling like I was putting out fires, it was a mental burden as well of trying to keep track of everything up here. So at some point I figured, hey, maybe if I do these things on a regular basis, you know, if I keep up rather than waiting until they've got completely out of hand, that might be helpful. So I wrote a list of all of the things that I wanted to do. I subcategorized them depending on how often I wanted to do them. So whether weekly, monthly, quarterly, or yearly. And thus my reset days were born. Ooh, also, if you want to implement your own reset days, I do have a free checklist that you can go grab. The link will be in the description. It has kind of a list of all of the things I do on a regular basis. Plus there is a template where you can just kind of fill out whatever you feel works best for you. Now, let's dive into it. I came across this word yesterday that perfectly describes what I do at the beginning of all of my reset days. The word is dual-tasking. So I always start out my weekly resets, and I've recommended this so many times, by doing something that can be running in the background. For me, that is laundry, or it might even be putting on the dishwasher. So something that can be doing a job while I go take care of other things. It's different to multitasking, where you are trying to do two or more things at once, which is very mentally draining. It is different to monotasking, where you focus on only one thing until it's done. Duotasking, on the other hand, is where you set one task in motion while you go focus on something else. So it could be, like for me, putting on the washing machine. So that can be running in the background while you are taking care of another task. It could also be delegating a task to someone else so that something is getting done while you are focused on another thing. So yeah, really fascinating, because it's something that I have been doing and recommending for such a long time, and I didn't know that there was a word for it. Duotasking. I wanted to pop back in here really quickly and mention, you may have spotted it, but I set timers when I do laundry, because previously I would put a load in the machine and then walk off, go about my business, and completely forget that the clothes were in there. And then the next day or several days later, then I would remember, and at that point it's too late. They are smelly and damp and disgusting, and I have to run a wash all over again. So setting timers now really helps me to stay on track. I will remember, and as soon as the timer goes off, I can go back and get those clothes out of the washing machine. Another thing that really helps me when it comes to laundry is doing a load from start to finish. I was a terror for either, like I said, washing clothes and then just leaving them there, or I might get to the second step of actually drying them, but then leaving them there, not actually folding them and putting them away. So I made a commitment to myself about 2 or 3 years ago now to do a laundry load from start to finish before I put on another laundry load. You know, I had this thing where I put something in the machine. Once it was transferred over to the dryer, then I'd put another load into the machine. And then before I knew it, I had 2 or more loads of laundry to fold and put away or iron. And did I want to do any of that? No. So start to finish, everything gets put away before another load goes on. You will be amazed at how more efficient your laundry routine is when you set it up that way. Another thing I always recommend is taking care of those small annoying tasks. You know, those little things that bug you on a regular basis. So mine was charging things. So there is a 2-plug socket behind this. One has the lamp plugged into it. The other one, I had a charger for my phone that I would charge up in the evening while I was reading in bed. The problem was that I also needed to charge my watch and my iPad. Now, because the socket is behind this, it was awkward to like unplug my phone and plug this in, so I ended up charging them in the bathroom, but that then became annoying because I would plug them in, I would get into bed, read for a bit, wait for them to charge up, and then I would have to go unplug them. Like, I'd have to get back out of bed, unplug them, back into bed. I just didn't like it. Once I'm in bed, I'm like toasty and warm. I don't want to move. I was really sick at the beginning of this year. I'm still not 100% over it. You can possibly hear it in my voice, but I was using an extension cord where I could plug in my laptop so that I could watch things in bed, I could charge my phone, etc. And while that was a great solution, I didn't like the fact that I had an extension cord lying out. But then I was like, wait a second, can I set it up so the extension cord is actually in the drawer? Like, I have it plugged in here behind, but it stays in. I can just run it through. It stays in my drawer. I have everything plugged in here, and I can just open my drawer and plug in whatever I need. And that has worked out wonderfully. So now at night I can get into bed, I can open this drawer, plug in my watch, let that charge up while I'm reading, and then I don't have to get back out of bed. I can just unplug it, strap it back on my wrist, close up the drawer, job done. Such a simple little thing, but I always kept all of my charging cords and cables in here and battery packs and stuff, and they're all divided, which is another great tip actually. Instead of like drawer dividers, which can be expensive, and for me, I don't always know that a setup is going to work for me. Like, I like to test it out first, and I don't want to be buying things just for testing things. So I just cut up tissue bags, tissue boxes, and I use them as drawer dividers, and they work fine for me. So I've never bothered going out to buy all of those expensive fancy drawer dividers. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I probably will eventually, but for now, this system is working just fine for me. Part of my weekly reset is that I charge up all of my devices. Now, generally they are charged throughout the week, but it's just a reminder to me to make sure that my external battery packs, for example, are charged up, so that if I do have to make a trip or go out for a day or something, I already have a battery pack on hand. Everything's fully charged and ready to go. Creating this little station right by my bed, so in the evening things can get charged up. I know where everything is. All my cords and cables are together. So convenient. When my daughter Scout was a baby, she one day pulled my laptop off of the kitchen table onto the hard tiled floor. Thankfully, my laptop was okay in the sense that nothing from the hard drive got deleted or erased or anything, but the laptop was on a major go slow thereafter, like so slow that it basically wasn't functional, and I had to buy a new one. But from that moment on, I got really serious about backing up my stuff. I'd kind of done it very sporadically before that, but this was the impetus I needed to do it on a regular basis. I have backed up weekly ever since. I've made it part of my weekly reset routine, and it's come in really handy because recently, I don't know why the technological gods hate me, but in the past month or two, I have had 2 hard drives fail on me, like just kaput, and I would have lost everything had I not had it all backed up to the cloud. Thank goodness for the cloud. Don't know what it is, don't know how it works, but it has saved my bacon these past 2 months. I got straight onto my backup service and I just sent them a heartfelt note of gratitude. If it's something you're looking into, I can obviously recommend my service because it has been great. I will link them in the description box. You can get a month's free trial. Try them out, see what you think, but yeah, like I said, have been invaluable to me. And then while I am backing up devices, while everything's plugged in and like running away in the background, I use this time to reply to emails, comments, DMs, etc. All of the messages that come through in a week, and honestly, I can never get through all of them, but I do try my best. At some point during this process, my timer will then go off, and number one, it's a great breaking point because honestly, replying to things could be a full-time job in and of itself, but I also do it because it helps me alternate between kind of like desk work and then getting up and moving, because if I sit for too long, I start to get very lethargic, you know, very sleepy, so I try and alternate as much as I can between sitting at my desk and then getting up on a regular basis and moving around. So that's another great reason for using a timer. It forces me to get up, get away from my desk, and actually go do something, get the blood pumping again. Once the clothes are in the dryer, then once I've got some movement in, I set another timer to remind me to go back to those clothes, and then I go back and do some digital organization. So I basically just clean up not just my laptop but also my phone. I delete files and folders. I delete a lot of photos and videos. Those pile up very quickly on my phone. Now for you, you could maybe do this monthly. For me, with the type of job I have, I take a lot of photos, I take a lot of videos. So yeah, I really need to clean them out on a much more regular basis. I will read and delete any saved articles, blog posts, etc. I also use this time to deal with paperwork. Now, thankfully, I have a great system for dealing with papers. So on a weekly basis, I generally don't have that much paperwork to deal with. I do kind of keep it. I did consider moving it to my monthly reset, but I decided to keep it on my weekly reset because sometimes a bill comes in and it needs to be paid, you know, sooner than a month. So I keep it as part of that. I generally only have 1 or 2 papers to deal with. If you want to see how I set up my kind of paper in-tray filing system, I will link to that video in the description. And then again, as part of my kind of alternating system that I have, I get up and I tidy up my office. I spend a huge amount of time here in my home office, and throughout the week it can get covered in random things like props for videos, or maybe I took the camera out and didn't put it away, or I have spare batteries and things lying around, or I've been working on something so I've got papers or books or things. So yeah, I give it a quick tidy, I give it a quick dust, and then I go around and water all my plants. This is probably one of the first things I added to my weekly reset routine. It's probably the thing that sparked the whole idea for my weekly reset routine, because I used to be terrible at looking after plants. They would all die. Now, I can't say that I have entirely green thumbs at this stage, but I think having a consistent watering schedule has definitely made them a little greener. They're still mostly black, I would say, but maybe just like with some green polka dots now or something. Then it is time to go back and fold and put away the clothes, and I generally use this time to catch up on a TV show because it just helps the time pass a little bit quicker, and they're two kind of mindless tasks I can be doing at the same time. I try as often as I can to kind of zhuzh up tasks that I don't like by incorporating some element of fun or some element of enjoyability into it. So folding clothes isn't always the most pleasant. I don't really mind doing it, but it can go on for a long time. So yeah, I watch something and that kind of, I wouldn't say I look forward to folding clothes, but it definitely just takes the extra sting out of it. Yeah, it's not so much the folding, it's just the sheer amount of folding. It's one thing I noticed about like moving here to the States, like the washing machines and the dryers are ginormous. Like if I do a load of clothes in Ireland, this is like about 10 items of clothing that will fit in the washing machine. Whereas over here, it's so much bigger. I can wash so many more clothes, which I initially thought was amazing. But then once I got to the actual part where I had to fold them, iron them, put them away, that's when I realized, oh, okay, washing more clothes just means folding and putting away and ironing more clothes. It's just pros and cons to everything. At this stage, I was feeling pretty good. I was basically caught up on everything. So the final kind of bundle of tasks that I do as part of my weekly reset is to plan for the coming week, and something that I'm really trying to implement this year. It has been part of my weekly reset for a long time, but I generally skip over it. Whereas this year I'm making a concerted effort to stick to it, and that is meal planning. If you've watched a lot of my recent videos, you'll know that my health has become a huge priority for me, and part of that is my diet, essentially just making sure that I'm eating right, that I'm fueling my body. And it was particularly important to me after the holiday season, because over the Christmas period I was like eating more, I was eating more junk, and just generally not feeling amazing. I wasn't like sticking to any sort of routine or anything like that. I was just eating when I felt hungry. I was eating when other people were eating. I was snacking in the evening as I was sitting around chatting to my family. I really got out of my routine, and then my body really felt it afterwards. So I made that like number one priority basically for the new year, like really honing in on my meal planning, on eating good, decent, wholesome, nutritious food. Not 100% of the time, because I'm human and I like my junk food and I like my snacks and I have a really sweet tooth, but just overall trying to make it, for the most part, better. Afterwards, I just plan out the coming week, and the first thing I do there is look at the family calendar. So I share a Google Calendar with my husband, and we just write things down there that may potentially impact the other person or that the other person may want to know. So generally, you know, something that's going on with my daughter if she needs to be brought somewhere, or something that's going on with the dog, you know, if she needs to be brought to the vet or the groomers or something. I don't know if she knows the word dog, but she started wagging her tail when I said it. She's so clever. I also check my waiting on list. So if I've ordered something and I'm waiting for it to arrive, or if I'm waiting for someone to get back to me about something, it all goes on that list. I check that and see if there's anything that I need to follow up on. I make a note of any appointments, etc. And then I just plan out what I want to do each day. So I try and plan out my weeks in advance. I do kind of like tweak them and change them as the week goes on and as other things crop up. But generally, I like to give myself a good overview of what I would hope to achieve that coming week. With this reset, because it was the start of a new year, I really wanted to be conscious about whether or not the things on the list were still in need of doing on a weekly basis. So there were one or two things that as I was going along, I realized I didn't need to be doing on a weekly basis, and I bumped them to my monthly reset. So it was really not just about getting the things done, but making sure that the things that I was doing still needed to be done, or still needed to be done as regularly. I will say this did take me most of the day. Some of that was because I was filming it at the same time, and that does add on a certain chunk of time, but there was a lot to get through. But I was persistent. I wanted to get it done, and I did, bar kind of one or two things that I either couldn't do for whatever reason, or just didn't feel that they needed to be done. And I have to say, I feel so much better now that I've taken care of all of those things. I feel a bit more ready to tackle the new year. Sundays are probably one of my favorite days of the week, not because I kind of do so much, or not because I really look forward to like doing laundry and all of these things on a weekly basis, but the sense of satisfaction I feel on a Sunday evening, that sense of accomplishment, that sense of readiness to face into the new week, it's invaluable. Would highly recommend reset days if you find that you kind of constantly fall behind on things, or there are certain things that just seem to fall through the cracks on a regular basis and you are playing catch up rather than keep up. Go grab your checklist, and if you're interested in how I do kind of my other reset days, or you just want to see more of these types of videos, I do have a very short playlist where I upload these types of videos. You can check that out right here, and until next time, go raibh míle maith agaibh. Agus feici mé sibh go luath. Slán!